The night was quiet. The small town on the edge of the desert was sleeping. Houses were dark, streets were empty, and only the sound of the wind moved across the sand. Then, suddenly, the silence was broken. A deep rumble shook the ground. Dogs began to bark. Windows rattled. Something heavy was coming from the sky. High above the desert, a strange light appeared. At first, it looked like a falling star. But then, the light grew brighter and brighter, burning red and silver, moving fast. The people who were still awake looked up in fear. This was no ordinary star. This was something else. Something alive. The light grew larger until finally, with a powerful crash, it landed far beyond the town, deep in the desert. A wave of dust and heat spread in every direction. The ground trembled like an earthquake. The townspeople hid inside their homes. They whispered to each other, but no one dared to go out. From the burning crater, a huge ship slowly rose out of the smoke. It was not made by humans. Its surface glowed with strange patterns, like symbols of another world. The ship opened with a long metallic sound. From inside, tall alien guards stepped out, their faces hidden under masks of silver. They moved like shadows, strong and silent. Between them was a figure. A girl. She was not human. Her skin shone pale, almost like moonlight. Her hair flowed like silver threads, glowing in the darkness. Her eyes burned bright blue, filled with pride but also fear. Heavy chains locked her wrists and ankles. She looked too fragile for such chains, but the guards treated her like a dangerous criminal. One of the guards spoke in a strange language. His voice echoed like thunder. But then, in broken human words, he announced, "This one. Punished, her crime. Betrayal, she will live. With man of earth, she will serve. Until her last breath." The people of the town stared in shock. They did not understand. Who was this alien girl? What crime had she committed? Why was she being given to a human man like a slave? No one dared to ask. No one dared to move. The guards pulled her forward. The girl did not cry. She did not beg. She only lifted her chin and stared at the humans with cold eyes, as if she hated them already. Still, behind that fire, there was something else. A secret. A pain that she hid deep inside. The guards marched toward the edge of town. They stopped at a small house, standing alone in the desert. Inside lived Daniel, a man known to keep to himself. He was tall, quiet, and carried sadness in his eyes. Years ago, he had lost his family in a terrible accident. And since then, he lived alone with only his books and his silence. When Daniel heard the rumbling outside, he stepped out, confused. He could not believe what he was seeing: strange creatures in armor, carrying a chained alien girl. Before he could speak, one of the guards pointed at him. "You," the guard said. "This girl belongs to you now. You take her. You keep her." Daniel froze. "What? I don't understand." The guard only repeated, "Punishment. Slave? Yours now? Then." Without another word, the guard shoved the girl forward. She stumbled, but she did not fall. Her glowing eyes locked onto Daniel's face. For a moment, it felt as if time stopped. Daniel saw something in her eyes: anger, yes, but also loneliness. She was not just a prisoner. She was something more. Before Daniel could ask questions, the guards stepped back. They pressed a device on their armor, and in an instant, the ship roared to life. Bright lights covered the desert once again. And then the ship vanished into the sky, leaving only smoke, silence, and two figures standing in the night, one human, one alien, bound by fate. The girl did not speak. She only stared at Daniel with cold, sharp eyes, as if daring him to command her. Daniel, still shocked, tried to find his words. Finally, he whispered, I don't want a slave. I don't even know who you are." The alien girl gave no answer. She simply turned her face away, her chains clinking in the silence. But deep inside, both of them knew this night had changed everything. Their lives would never be the same again. The desert was silent again. The alien ship had gone, leaving only smoke and the smell of burning sand. Daniel stood in front of his small house, still frozen, still trying to understand what had just happened. In front of him, the alien girl stood chained, her silver hair glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her bright blue eyes watched him, unblinking, cold and proud. Daniel felt his heart beat faster. He had never seen anything like her before. She looked young, but her presence was heavy, like a queen fallen from the stars. The chains rattled as she moved, yet she did not look weak. Instead, she stood tall, as if even in punishment she refused to bow. He cleared his throat. "Listen," he said softly, almost awkwardly. "I don't know what they want from me. I don't keep slaves. I'm just a man. You're free to stay here, but I will not force you." The girl tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing. She did not answer. It was as if she was measuring him, deciding if he was a fool, a liar, or something else. Daniel sighed. He opened the wooden door of his house. "Come inside. You look tired." For a moment, she did not move. Then, slowly, with a sound of iron, she walked forward. Her chains scraped the ground with every step. When she entered, she looked around his small home. It was simple, just a table, a chair, some shelves of books, and a bed in the corner. To her, it must have looked poor and strange. She gave a small laugh, sharp and bitter. "This is the home of a man," she said in broken human words. Her voice was soft but carried hidden power. Daniel raised his eyebrows. "So you can speak my language." The girl crossed her arms. The chains clinked again. "I speak many tongues. Your words. Simple." Daniel almost smiled at her pride. "Then maybe you can tell me your name." She looked away, silent. "Fine," Daniel said, sitting down on the chair. "You don't have to. But you can't just stand there all night. Sit, rest. I won't hurt you." The girl stayed where she was. Her glowing eyes scanned the room again. She seemed restless, like a wild animal trapped in a cage. Daniel noticed her hands trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it. He walked to the shelf and pulled out a metal key. With slow steps, he moved closer. She stiffened, ready to fight. But Daniel only reached for her chains. "These don't belong here," he whispered. He unlocked the cuffs from her wrists and ankles. The chains fell heavy to the ground. The girl looked at him in shock. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, her proud eyes softened, just a little. "There," Daniel said. "No more chains. You're free to walk away if you want." Silence filled the room. The girl stared at him as if she could not believe what he had done. Finally, she whispered, almost to herself, "No man frees a slave." Daniel shrugged. "Maybe I'm not like other men." She frowned, trying to read his face. There was no trick, no trap. He was simply telling the truth. That night, she did not leave. She sat by the wall, silent, her knees pulled close, her silver hair falling around her face. Daniel gave her a blanket. She touched it carefully, as if human things were strange to her, then wrapped it around herself. Daniel lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, but he could not sleep. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? What crime had she really done? Why was she sent to him of all people? The girl did not sleep either. She kept her eyes open, watching the shadows. Sometimes she looked at Daniel, her expression unreadable. Outside, the desert wind howled against the house. Somewhere far away, an animal cried. The world seemed dangerous, yet inside that small home, a strange calm grew. Two lives so different had been thrown together by fate. But deep in her chest, the girl kept her secret. She was not just a criminal. She was something greater, something dangerous. And Daniel, whether he wanted or not, was now part of her destiny. At dawn, when the first light touched the desert, Daniel stepped outside. The air was cool, the sky painted gold. The girl followed, still silent, her silver hair shining in the sunlight. Daniel looked at her. You don't have to stay. But if you do, then this place is safe. No one will hurt you here. For the first time, her lips curved into a small, mysterious smile. But her words were sharp. You are wrong, human. Danger is already here. Daniel froze. Her eyes were not looking at him, but at the horizon. In the distance, shadows moved too fast. Too strange to be human. The enemies were already watching. Morning came slowly across the desert. The sun rose red and heavy, spreading heat over the sands. Daniel was already awake, chopping wood behind his small house. The sound of the axe striking echoed in the still air. Inside the house, the alien girl sat quietly, her glowing eyes following every sound, every movement outside. She had not spoken much since last night. Her body was free of chains, but her spirit still felt heavy. She kept her distance from Daniel, always watching, always measuring him. To her, he was strange, gentle, calm, and far too trusting for a human. She did not understand him, but she could not ignore him either. Daniel returned inside, wiping sweat from his forehead. He noticed her still sitting near the wall. You should eat, he said, placing bread and water on the table. The girl stared at the food. Slowly, she reached out and touched it with her fingers, curious. Her lips pressed together as she took a bite. For a moment, her proud face softened. Daniel smiled faintly. See? Not poison. Her eyes flickered toward him, almost annoyed that he had made her smile. She turned her head away, pretending not to care. The day passed slowly. Daniel worked outside, fixing broken fences and checking the well. The girl walked around the house, touching objects carefully, as if every small thing was a mystery to her. A chair, a spoon, even a cracked mirror on the wall, she studied them like treasures from another world. Then it happened. Daniel was cutting wood when the axe slipped and struck his hand. He gasped as blood poured down his palm. He cursed under his breath and staggered back. Pressing his hand against his shirt, the girl rushed to him before he could speak. Her glowing blue eyes widened, and for the first time, her proud mask broke into panic. She grabbed his wrist, holding it tight. Wait, she whispered. Daniel felt a strange heat spread through his arm. The girl's hand began to glow with soft silver light. The pain in his wound faded. Before his eyes, the deep cut closed. The blood disappeared, and the skin sealed as if it had never been hurt. Daniel froze. His heart pounded. What? What did you just do? The girl let go of his hand quickly, her chest rising fast with heavy breaths. She turned her face away. Nothing, she muttered. Daniel looked at his palm, smooth and unbroken. That was not nothing. You healed me. You have powers. Her voice turned sharp. Do not speak of it. Do not tell anyone. If they know, they will come. Who will come? Daniel asked. She stared into the distance, her jaw tight. The hunters. My enemies. They do not forgive. They do not forget. Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. The shadows he had seen at dawn returned to his memory. He realized now she was not safe here, and neither was he. Later that evening, as the sun fell and the desert cooled, Daniel sat on the porch while the girl stayed inside. He thought about her powers, about the way she had touched his wound and erased it like magic. She was more than just an alien prisoner. She was dangerous. But not to him. To someone else. Someone out there who wanted her silenced inside the house. The girl sat with her knees pulled close, staring at her hands. The silver glow still lingered on her skin. She whispered softly to herself in her own language, words Daniel could not understand. Her voice was sad, almost broken. Suddenly, a loud knock hit the door. Daniel jumped to his feet. The girl's head snapped up, her eyes glowing bright with fear. He opened the door to see a neighbor. Mr. Harris, an old farmer from the nearby land. "Evening, Daniel," the man said, squinting past him. "I heard strange noises last night. Saw lights in the desert, too. You've seen anything?" Daniel swallowed hard. Behind him, the girl stood silent in the shadows. Her silver hair caught the dim light, making her glow faintly. He quickly blocked the view with his body. "No, just the wind. Maybe a storm. You know how it is." The old man narrowed his eyes. "Storm, eh? Well, you be careful." "Strange things happen out here at night." Daniel nodded. "I'll be fine." "Thank you." When the neighbor left, Daniel closed the door and turned. The girl's eyes burned with suspicion. "You lied," she whispered. "I had to," Daniel replied. "If anyone knows you are here, they will come for you." She studied him carefully. Then, for the first time, she gave a slow nod. A silent sign of trust. That night, as Daniel lay awake, he thought about the girl. She was no ordinary prisoner. She had power in her hands, mystery in her eyes, and enemies who wanted her gone. He realized something important. From this moment, his quiet life was over. By protecting her, he had stepped into a war he did not understand, and outside. In the desert, hidden eyes were watching, waiting. The desert night had teeth. Cold winds cut across the sand, carrying whispers that sounded almost alive. Daniel's small house stood alone in the vast emptiness, its windows glowing faint with candlelight. Inside, the alien girl sat silently by the wall, her silver hair catching the dim light, her blue eyes distant. Daniel sat at the table, pretending to read a book, but his hands trembled. Every creak of the wooden walls made him glance toward the door. Ever since his neighbor had come asking questions, his heart had not calmed. He knew something was out there. Watching, the girl finally spoke, her voice low, almost like a warning. "They are near." Daniel looked up. "Who?" Her eyes narrowed. "Hunters. They never stop. Once they choose a target, they follow until the end." Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to believe she was wrong, but deep down, he knew she wasn't. The strange figures he had seen at dawn, the sudden silence of the desert animals, everything pointed to danger. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring into the dark desert. The girl did not rest either. She sat across from him, unmoving, as if her body no longer needed sleep. At times, her eyes glowed faint blue, searching the shadows beyond the walls. Then it happened. A flicker. Just for a second, he saw a movement beyond the fences. Something tall. Something fast. Too quiet to be human. Daniel stood quickly, his chair scraping the floor. The girl's head turned instantly. Her voice was sharp. "They are here." He grabbed the old rifle from behind the door. It was rusty, but it was the only weapon he owned. His palms were sweaty, his chest tight. The girl rose to her feet. The faint glow in her eyes grew brighter, like fire hidden under ice. "Stay close to me," she whispered. Daniel opened the door slowly. The desert air rushed in, cold and dry. He stepped outside, scanning the dark horizon. Nothing, only the wind, only silence. Then a shadow moved near the well, another near the fence. Daniel aimed his rifle, his hands shaking. "Who's there?" He shouted. No answer. Only the whistle of the wind. The girl stepped beside him, her bare feet silent on the sand. Her silver hair danced around her face, glowing faintly in the moonlight. She lifted her hands slowly, as if feeling the air. The glow in her palm grew stronger. "They are hiding," she whispered. "But I can feel them." Suddenly, a stone near the fence cracked. Daniel flinched. From the darkness, two tall figures appeared. Their bodies were thin, but strong, covered in black armor that blended with the night. Their faces were hidden under smooth masks. No eyes, no mouths, only blank. Silver plates that reflected the moon. One of them raised a weapon. Long, sharp, glowing faint red dot. Daniel aimed his rifle. But before he could fire, the alien girl raised her hand. A wave of silver light shot forward, hitting the sand in front of the masked figures. The ground shook, and the attackers stopped. The girl's voice cut through the night, fierce and commanding. "Go back." The masked figures did not speak. They tilted their heads, studying her, then slowly stepped back into the shadows. Within seconds, they were gone, swallowed by the desert night. Daniel lowered his rifle, his breath heavy. His hands shook so hard he almost dropped the weapon. What were they? The girl's glowing eyes dimmed slowly. She looked at him with a mixture of anger and fear. Scouts. If they found me, more will come. Stronger, deadlier. Daniel stared at her. "Why do they want you so badly?" "What did you do?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Her eyes moved to the horizon, where the shadows had disappeared. Finally, she whispered, "My crime was truth. I saw what my people tried to hide. I spoke against them. For that, they call me traitor. For that, they hunt me." Daniel's chest tightened. She was not just a runaway. She was part of something much bigger, something dangerous. Inside the house again, Daniel locked the door. But he knew locks would not stop creatures like those. He turned to her. "If they're coming, then what do we do?" The girl's face was calm now, almost cold. "We wait, we prepare. And when the hunters return," her voice dropped, sharp as a blade, "we fight." Daniel swallowed hard. He had lived alone for years, hiding from the world, but now fate had dragged him into a war that was not his. Yet, looking into her glowing eyes, he knew he could not walk away. That night, as the candle burned low, the desert outside seemed alive with whispers. The enemies were still out there, circling, waiting for the right moment. And Daniel finally understood. The girl was not just a stranger. She was a key to something far greater, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The desert sun sank low, painting the sky in fire and blood. Daniel's small house sat heavy in the silence, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Inside, the alien girl stood by the window, her glowing blue eyes fixed on the horizon where the hunters had vanished. Daniel placed a lantern on the table. Its soft light pushed back the shadows, but not the fear in his heart. He had questions pressing inside him, questions that could no longer stay quiet. Finally, he spoke. "Who are you, really?" The girl did not turn. Her silver hair flowed over her shoulders like threads of light. For a long moment, she said nothing. Only her hands moved, slowly opening and closing, as if remembering the chains that had once held them. Daniel took a step closer. "They call you traitor. They send hunters across the stars to find you. That's not punishment for a small crime. What did you do?" At last, she turned. Her eyes glowed brighter, but her face looked tired, as if carrying a weight too heavy for her young frame. Her voice was low but sharp, each word like a blade. "My name is Alira. I was born not a servant, but a daughter of rulers. My people do not call me girl. They called me princess. Daniel's breath caught. Princess. Alira nodded slowly. I was meant to rule one day, but I saw what others could not. My family, my father, my uncles, they were not leaders. They were tyrants. They crushed our people with laws, silence, and fear. Anyone who spoke against them vanished. She clenched her fists, her glowing eyes trembling with anger. I tried to speak. I told them truth. I told them freedom mattered more than fear. They called it betrayal. My own blood turned against me. Daniel listened, his chest heavy. He had lost his family in an accident years ago, but he could not imagine being betrayed by them on purpose. They could not kill me, Alira whispered, because too many would notice. So they chose another way. They marked me as a traitor, a criminal. They sent me far away, given as a slave to a human, as if I were nothing. They thought exile would break me. Her voice cracked for the first time. Not with weakness, but with pain buried deep. But I am not broken. Silence filled the room. The lantern flickered. Daniel finally spoke, his voice rough. So you're not a criminal at all. You're a rebel? A fighter for your people. Alira shook her head. No, I am a shadow. My people fear me, my enemies hunt me, and now you are trapped with me. Do you understand, Daniel? By keeping me here, you carry my curse. Daniel looked into her burning eyes. For a moment, fear and doubt filled him. But then he remembered her saving his life, her healing touch, her strength. I don't care, he said firmly. If they want to take you, they'll have to go through me. Alira's eyes widened, surprise flashing across her face. No one had ever said such words to her before. No one had chosen her side without fear. Her lips parted, but no answer came. Instead, she lowered her gaze, her proud shoulders softening for the first time. Outside, the desert wind howled like a beast. Somewhere in the darkness, a strange sound echoed a signal, a call. The hunters were still near. Alira whispered, "They will return soon. Stronger. More of them. You must leave me, Daniel. You must live. If you stay, you will die." Daniel shook his head. I've lived alone too long. I've already lost everything once. Maybe protecting you. Maybe this is my purpose now. For a moment, her glowing eyes filled with something new, something fragile. Not anger, not pride, but trust. It flickered faintly like the first star in the night sky. She stepped closer, her voice softer. You are foolish, human. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. Maybe. But I'm your fool now. The lantern light wrapped around them, two figures standing together against the dark. Outside, the hunters prepared for war. But inside, for the first time, Alira was not alone. The truth had been spoken. And with it, the bond between them had begun. The night was heavy, the air thick with silence. Daniel's house stood like a lone soldier in the desert, fragile against the endless sands. Inside, Daniel checked his old rifle again, though he knew it was useless against the hunters. Across the room, Alira sat still, her silver hair glowing faint under the lantern light. Her eyes were closed, but her hands trembled. She could feel them coming. The hunters. More than before, stronger, suddenly, the ground shook. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with every heartbeat. Daniel's chest tightened. He stepped to the window and froze. Shapes moved across the desert. At first shadows, then glowing figures. 5, 6, 7 of them. Tall, armored, their silver masks gleaming under the moon. Each carried weapons that hissed with red light, humming with deadly power. They found us, Daniel whispered. Alira opened her eyes. They burned brighter than ever. She stood slowly, her face calm, her voice sharp. No more running. Tonight, we fight. Daniel swallowed hard. Fear clawed at him, but he nodded. Then we fight. The hunters reached the fence, their footsteps silent, their eyes hidden. One raised his weapon. A red beam shot forward, slicing the wooden fence in half. Flames burst in the dark. Daniel raised his rifle and fired. The bullet struck one of the hunters in the chest, but it bounced off the armor like stone. The hunter turned his head slowly, almost amused. Daniel's stomach sank. The rifle was useless. Then Alira stepped forward. Her silver hair whipped around her face as she lifted her hands. A burst of blue light exploded from her palms, striking the ground before the hunters. Sand flew into the air like a storm, forcing them to halt. The hunters moved fast, circling. Their weapons cut through the air, beams of red slicing wood, stone, and sand. Daniel ducked as one blast burned through the wall behind him. "Alira," he shouted. "They'll burn the house down." Her voice thundered back. "Then let them. The desert will be our battleground." She leaped forward, her body glowing with silver light. The chains that once bound her now spun in her hands, alive with energy, turned into weapons of fire. With a scream that shook the night, she struck the nearest hunter. The chain wrapped around his arm, glowing bright, then snapped his weapon in two. The others advanced, but Daniel ran out too, swinging his rifle like a club. He hit one hunter across the head, knocking the mask loose. For the first time, Daniel saw the face beneath pale, sharp, with black eyes that burned with hatred. The hunter roared and swung his blade, nearly cutting Daniel down. But Alira's hand shot forward, a wave of energy pushing the hunter back. "You fight like a fool," she shouted at Daniel. "But you fight with courage." Daniel grinned despite the danger. "I'll take that as a compliment." The battle raged. The desert lit with red and blue fire, beams striking sand and stone, explosions shaking the ground. The hunters moved like shadows, fast and deadly, but Alira matched them. She spun, her chains glowing, her light cutting through the night. Still, there were too many. One hunter struck her shoulder, the blade burning her skin. She cried out, stumbling. Daniel rushed to her side, firing his rifle again, even though it was useless. "Stay with me," he shouted, grabbing her arm. Her blue eyes burned brighter through the pain. "I will not fall. Not while you stand beside me." She raised both hands, gathering all her strength. Her body glowed so bright it hurt Daniel's eyes. The hunters froze, sensing danger. Then Alira released the power. A wave of silver light erupted across the desert, blinding, roaring, endless. The ground split, the air screamed, and the hunters were thrown back like rag dolls. Their weapons shattered, their armor cracked. One by one, they fell into the sand, silent and still. The night went quiet again. Only the wind moved across the broken desert. Daniel dropped his rifle, his chest heaving. Sweat and dust covered his face. Beside him, Alira fell to her knees, her strength spent. Blood stained her shoulder, her breathing heavy. Daniel knelt beside her. "You're hurt." She shook her head weakly. "It is nothing." He touched her arm gently. "Don't lie. You saved us. You saved me." Her glowing eyes softened. For the first time, her proud voice trembled. "I was not alone. You fought with me, Daniel? No one has ever done that before." Daniel smiled, tired but true. "Then maybe you've never had the right partner." The desert around them was scorched, broken, filled with silence. The hunters were defeated, but Daniel knew this was not the end. More would come, stronger enemies. But tonight, they had one. And for the first time, Alira allowed herself to believe she was not just a fugitive, not just a traitor. With Daniel beside her, she was something more. The desert was silent again. Smoke curled from the scorched sand, the marks of battle glowing faint in the moonlight. The hunters were gone, their bodies scattered, their weapons broken. Only the wind remained, whispering over the emptiness. Daniel sat on the ground, exhausted, his chest heaving. His rifle lay broken beside him. His hands still shook from the fight, but his eyes were steady. Beside him, Alira knelt, her silver hair tangled, her shoulder bleeding. Even injured, she still looked like a fallen star, fierce and unbroken. For a long time, neither spoke. The night carried their silence, heavy but full of meaning. Finally, Daniel broke it. His voice was low, rough with fatigue. "You could have left. After they gave you to me, after I freed your chains, you could have run. But you stayed. Why?" Alira's glowing eyes lifted to his. She hesitated, as if the answer was trapped in her chest. Her lips parted slowly, her voice soft, almost fragile. "Because I was never free. Until I met you." Daniel's breath caught. Her words were simple, yet they struck deeper than any blade. She turned her gaze away, staring at the desert horizon. "All my life, I lived in cages. First, the golden cage of my palace, ruled by cruel men who called themselves my family. Then the cage of exile, chains that bound my hands and silenced my voice. But you—" She paused, her eyes softening. "You never treated me as a slave. You looked at me as if I were human, equal. That is why I stayed." Daniel's heart ached. He had lived so long in loneliness, never believing he would matter to anyone again. And now, this alien princess, hunted across the stars, had found her home in him. He reached out carefully, touching her wounded shoulder. She winced, but did not pull away. His hand lingered gently. "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he whispered. "Not while I'm here." Her eyes glistened faintly, glowing like stars through tears she refused to let fall. For the first time, her proud voice broke into a soft laugh. "You are foolish, Daniel, brave." "But foolish," he smiled, tired but true. "Then I'm your fool." They sat there together, two broken souls, bound not by chains, but by choice. Around them, the desert stretched endless and dangerous, but inside that moment it felt small, safe. And theirs, hours passed before dawn painted the sky with gold. The cold of night lifted, and the first warmth of morning touched the sand. Daniel stood, offering his hand to Alira. She looked at it for a moment, then placed her delicate, glowing fingers in his. Together, they walked back to the ruined house. It was scarred by fire and smoke, but it still stood. Like them, inside, Daniel found clean cloth and wrapped her wound. She let him, silent, her eyes never leaving his face. There was a softness there now, something new and unspoken. When he finished, she whispered, "My enemies will return, stronger than before. If you stay with me, your life will never be safe." Daniel looked into her glowing blue eyes, steady and certain. "Safe isn't living. Living is this, fighting for something that matters." For someone who matters, Alira's breath trembled. For the first time, she lowered her guard completely. She leaned forward, resting her forehead gently against his. The glow of her eyes softened, no longer sharp, but warm too. Lives once strangers, now bound in a way no chains could hold. Outside, the desert stretched endless, filled with dangers and shadows. But inside that small house, a new future was born, not of slavery, not of exile, but of love and choice. The girl who had been given as punishment, and the man who had been chosen by fate were no longer master and slave. They were partners, companions, soon. More than that, and as the first light of day filled the room, Daniel whispered, "Welcome home." Alira, her lips curved into the faintest smile, soft and real. For the first time, she believed it. The princess in chains had found her freedom, and the lonely man had found his heart. Together, they had found each other.